stuck at charging my phone.
I do
and
too.
So
Mine's at like 5%.
I asked him to save the number, and he ended up not.
I also love the fact that I am stereotypical meat eater douchebag right now with the tank top and backwards hat.
Yeah.
My fuses went out in my apartment, so the washer and dryer isn't working.
Hey, get the microphone so we can have the audio quality.
What do I do on it?
So
just hit this.
He's gonna talk to you, and this is gonna be your mic.
Oh, kind of like
So-
those TikTok boys.
So you can be able to have a
So I
conversation.
use it like this.
Yeah, you're gonna talk to it like you're talking to the phone.
Do you mind if I play this footage while we talk?
Yeah. What is this?
This is High Animal Welfare RSPCA certified
Is this
slaughterhouses and farms.
Is this Fairlife?
This is not
seen.
Fairlife.
Okay.
So
You know what
this
I'm
is
talking about, though, right? The
yeah.
brand? Yeah.
This is a compilation of the highest animal welfare farms in the world. Most of them are from Australia.
So this is in Australia.
Most of them.
Okay.
Some of them are American too. It's just a compilation of all
It's
the
just
highest
okay.
animal welfare farms ones.
Got it.
Because a lot of times people will use like, oh, but I eat grass-fed, whatever. So we wanted to showcase literally the best case scenario of what
For
you're
like
purchasing in a
specifically
grocery
grass
store.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. So it will say each industry: pork, cattle, whatever. There's pork, chicken, beef, and fish industry on here. So yeah, we'll just play this while we talk.
I think it's in picture mode. Yeah. Back to tab. There we go.
There
All
we
right.
go. Yeah. All right. So, I guess my argument is why would you needlessly exploit and murder animals when we live in a modern world and we have access to vegan foods and you just don't need to anymore? You can live a healthy life and not eat them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like this. No, you're good. I like this topic because it's not talking about necessarily the nutrition, and we can even talk about that too. It's talking about the morality of it.
Yeah.
What comes into question when you get a lot of these situations, like obviously I see a valid point here, they're being farmed, but when you get into the situation of the morality of it, the question is how would we stop this really?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, specifically in America, obviously in other parts of the world it's different, but it comes down to a freedom of choice.
Yeah.
So obviously no one's out here forcing people to eat animals, but they're doing it by free choice.
Yeah, so I would say, one, it's a well-established industry that has roots in advertising everywhere, so that's a big factor.
It's been around
and it's
for
generational.
centuries. Yeah.
So yeah, and just because people have done it before doesn't mean it's ethical, obviously. We've done a lot of things in history that we've decided aren't ethical. And I would argue the only time we would possibly create legislation to limit people's consumption of animals is if the population became like 70% vegan or something, and we decided as a society that it was immoral. Yeah, I wouldn't advocate for us to just like pass legislation while 90% of people still want to consume animals. Yeah, that would not be like the people's will or whatever. I would still say on the personal level, there's no moral justification to do it, and every movement starts on an individual level. Abolitionist movement, female rights, like whatever movement you want to choose, it all started with like individuals. Yeah.
Yes.
And it just snowballed, you know? Yeah.
No, I understand. So at the end of the day, it's just you're saying there's alternatives.
Yeah.
So why do we continue to do these animal farms?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great comment or great point. And to make a point here, I'm not religious at all. I'm not Christian. I was raised Mormon, surprisingly, but I'm no longer affiliated with any religious sect or anything. But in a lot of religious sects, specifically the Christian one, which I could be wrong, I think that's the largest one, God said he put the animals on the earth for the will of man, to benefit man.
Yeah.
And you're saying that, hey, now we're at the point where we don't need these animals. We can live off of soy and other vegetables to do so. But my question comes down to what do you like pinpoint issues with the morality you have?
So all animals, it's undeniable they have some sort of, we don't know the level of subjective reality, but they have some sort of subjective reality. Like even a fish, you can acknowledge they have a brain and nervous system. Like they see something, they, it's not like a tree.
Yeah.
Like they don't have a subjective reality. They just react to stimuli. Whereas these animals have a subjective reality, and they have the capacity to feel suffering and pain, and they perceive the world around them. so what we're doing is we're taking these people, we're breeding them to an existence, and then we're forcing them to feel this pain and suffering, and then we're taking this reality away from them just for a fleeting meal. So, you know, when you eat some animal products, 15 minutes takes you to eat the meal. That's the taste pleasure you get. It was their whole reality. So that's why I think it's morally wrong. And I base my rights kind of on do you know about philosophy at all?
Yeah, I know a little bit. I
Yeah,
took a few philosophy classes.
Yeah,
in
so
college.
it's mostly like a deontological perspective, I would say, where it's rights based. So, you know, if I want to minimize the taking of things rights away. Yeah, so I'm just saying we should extend rights to animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so well then that's the real question, because obviously there's already animal cruelty laws in place.
Yeah.
When you say extend rights to animals, like what rights are you talking about here?
I mean, rights to freedom of autonomy, right to, you know, live where you want, roam where you want, do what you want, not be enslaved, exploited, murdered, stolen from, those rights, you know? And it gets a little, like, weird when you say, like, stolen from, and expanding, like, cities and stuff, like, gets into some weird arguments there, but we don't need to have those. We're talking about animal agriculture.
My thing is obviously I agree that you can't just go out and buy a dog and beat the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I agree that there should probably be laws to make these animal agriculture more not only safe but pleasant, because I know specifically with chickens, I could be wrong here, but this is what I've heard, is that a lot of places will basically pump these chickens full of steroids until they can't move.
Yeah.
Obviously that's not optimal, because exactly, you get what I'm saying. But when you get into the situation of issuing them rights, I don't know how to get behind that, because these are animals, these aren't human beings.
Yeah.
So that's my main counter to that, is these are animals, they're not human beings.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we give them rights, they'll just free roam.
Yeah, so then I would say to that, what is your moral differentiator between a human and animals? Is it simply a speciesist kind of thing, like we're humans, so we have more moral rights than them? Is it a cognitive thing? Like, what is the separation for you morally between humans and animals that makes it okay for us to do this to animals and not okay for us to do this to humans?
Well, first off, humans are obviously completely different from animals. I don't see pigs out here digging
we are
holes.
animals. I
We are
typically say
animals.
non-human animals. to
Yes,
establish
non-human
that.
animals. That's fair enough. But I would definitely say there's a stark difference between us and these animals. For example, we have the ability to have this conversation over morality. The thing is that if a bear sees you in the woods, it's not going to question if it should eat you.
Yeah.
It's just going to. It doesn't have morals. It's just nature.
So is that the differentiator for you then? Is it if you're able to have these conversations of morality? Is that
Yes.
where? Okay.
That should be like, obviously there's others, but that's like the prime, I feel like, example.
Yeah.
Because I don't see chickens talking philosophy.
So I would say then, let's say there's a, maybe some like inbred family or species of human where they're not able to have conversations with other humans because they're so
Like West
mentally
Virginia.
impaired. Yeah. Would it be okay for people to then farm them?
No.
No. So why then?
Because that's like saying people who are mute, specifically because they can't have those conversations.
Well, but that's what you said. So I'm going off of your moral framework.
Fair enough,
Yeah.
but like I said earlier, this is just a prime example. Is that
And new people could technically like sign.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm getting at, is they have the ability to. Just because someone's mentally impaired doesn't mean we should farm at that specific
But
person.
they're mentally impaired from birth. Just like the animal, I would say, is mentally impaired from birth. So what would be the...
What do you mean?
Comparatively to us, they're
Yes.
mentally impaired. But
Well,
for that...
That's more
for that-
genetically impaired.
For that area of humans, let's say, let's go with the example of inbreeding. We find
Yes.
this like island of massive inbreeding, and all of them are just
Like I said, West Virginia.
absolutely idiots,
Yes.
right? And so they're, different from us. They do not have the capacity to ever learn how to communicate with us or how to ever function in our society normally, right? So if I find these people and then enslave them and farm them and cannibalize the moral difference?
What you just said, cannibalization.
So it's just because it's a human.
Yes, I mean, I feel like cows aren't out here eating other cows. I know some species will eat their dead.
Well, if they're literally starving. to death,
Yeah,
like-
exactly. But that's an extreme situation. But yeah, that's it. It's cannibalism. It's consumption of your own species.
Okay, so you just it is just a species thing with you. The moral difference is that they're a cow,
Yes.
not a human. Yeah.
What I was saying with the morality, having the ability to have the conversation, my argument was that's like a primary difference between a cow and a human.
Yeah.
A human can question its own existence and its own
Yeah.
reality and have those conversations with other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. So when I ask these questions, I'm basically doing something called name the trait, where we're trying to find what creates that moral difference between humans and animals for you. So for us, we've established that the moral difference is created on a species level.
Yes.
And so the only reason you would find cannibalism wrong is because it's humans you're eating, correct?
Consumption of humans.
Yeah. So I would now bring up, what is the difference between that and if, let's say, back in the day, I was to say, well, black people are black people, they're less than me, you know? What is the logical difference there?
Well, understandably in the past, that has been a thing where African
Like
Americans.
people used to legitimately believe that they did not have the same brain capacity. They, could not ever form civilizations like us. Like people used to think that.
Yes. But then you're getting to the conversation of still cannibalizing. I mean, I don't know because I've never looked into this, but I would say pretty confidently, I don't think there was a lot of people out there eating enslaved people,
I mean,
especially in the Americas.
I would say probably not, but what is the moral difference? My question is, what is the moral difference, or what is the logical difference between you saying, I'm doing this to animals because they're this species, and you saying, I'm doing this to black people because they're black? What is the logical difference between that?
Black people are humans. That's the difference. It's still cannibalism.
But we didn't acknowledge them as humans. They were lesser than. So back then, they weren't humans.
Legally, they weren't humans, but
They were
everyone knew they were
literally.
humans.
Okay, but everyone knows animals are conscious. They have a reality.
Yes,
a
they have a
subjective reality just like us. So why does them not being a human allow us to take that from them?
Again, it's a species difference.
But, yeah.
Because again, we're getting into the part where it's like if a bear sees you in the woods, it's
Yeah.
going to eat you.
So what about aliens? If we contacted
Aliens? Okay.
Yeah, if we contacted aliens
Okay.
and they were able to communicate with us, they were cognizant like us, would it be okay if they either enslaved us and ate us, or we enslaved them and ate them? Would
Well-
that be morally justifiable?
Well, then you get into a different part of morality, which is, I don't know the correct term, but I would call it more of a nature morality, which is if a black bear sees you in the woods, it's going to eat you and doesn't care.
Yeah.
And obviously, as a human, I would not like it if an alien species came down and ate me. But again, if they have laser weapons, there's not much talking or doing that I can get out of that.
Yeah, but you would still suffer. You would view it as immoral from your perspective. You would receive pain from it and suffering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the difference between them doing that to us and us doing that to animals?
Yeah, I see your point with the with that because you're turning the dime basically, or turning the tables, whatever the term is. But the issue. So hold on, let me think.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, the issue comes down to these animals. Again, if you go to the Christian perspective, I don't even know why I keep going back to this, just because it's a good example. A higher being, even if there isn't one, I think we can agree that a higher being put these animals on the planet for our use. Why else would we have the natural ability to farm these animals, and not only that, consume their byproducts like milk, eggs,
Yeah.
etc.?
So, God in like the Christian Bible also specified that we should respect these animals and that we should, not abuse them and treat them properly and stuff. And he even like gives like cows specifically as an example of you should not just like needlessly harm them or abuse them, or you shouldn't kill them completely. Like it says that in the Bible. So if God acknowledges that we should not needlessly cause pain to these animals, then I feel like he would agree with the notion that once we are in an advanced enough civilization where we don't need to cause harm to these animals, that is the same as us needlessly abusing them.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Because I do agree that there's no point in needlessly abusing the animals, because as someone who's hunted most of my life, I would find it extremely reprehensible if we went hunting and my buddy shot something and then left it there and or refused to eat it or give it to someone else to eat.
Yeah.
That'd be morally reprehensible. I mean, every Native American tribe also points to that. A lot of tribes have.
Yeah.
Just because it's a waste of, first off, time and a waste of that animal's life.
Yeah.
And getting down to it with the farming of animals, I obviously can agree. I mean, I honestly wasn't watching most of this because I was trying to have the conversation.
Yeah.
But
play it again.
I would obviously agree if there is issues in the animal agriculture scene, such as like I've seen with like Fairlife or something like that. I think that's a milk brand. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. There was a thing done about them recently.
Where they're basically tossing corpses away and not using the full animal, then I would agree we should be doing
So are
something
you
about
aware
that.
we do that in all, every single country that does animal agriculture, they do that. It's a practice called culling. So when an animal is not going to be profitable enough, and they realize this at a young age, whether it's infection, it's not growing fast enough, it's not producing enough, they'll go out and kill it. With pigs, you can actually see it in this video. They'll take the babies and just throw them against the concrete head first and just bash their brains in. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's actually standard practice. It's called
Okay.
culling. Yeah. And
So
we just
culling,
throw
got it.
those animals in a bin and they rot away. And there are documentaries where they'll show like bins on farms of rotting animals. Yeah.
Okay.
And it creates an environmental problem too, actually. But
Well, obviously.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I obviously agree with you on that point. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be disposing of these animals just like we
So-
shouldn't be disposing of anything.
Yeah, so my argument is we're 9 billion people wide.
Mhm.
Do you see a reasonable way where we could feed all 9 billion people animal products and we wouldn't have to use these practices to the extent that they would like to consume these animal products, you know? Because people want to have their animal products every single meal, and they normally have multiple kinds in every single meal, you know? You have a cheeseburger with beef and cheese in it. you
Yeah,
know?
bacon,
Yeah, bacon, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand. It's become from a delicacy, which it used to be, to more of a everyday thing.
Yeah.
And I can understand wanting to cut down on it, but going to back again, I don't think there's a way to do that other than maybe increasing taxes or removing tax levies against them.
Yeah.
Or
Or convincing people to go.
or exactly on an individual
Yeah.
level to go
Yeah.
vegan. But again, I'm going back to, I believe these animals were put on this earth to aid us in our
Yeah.
adventure. Now, obviously, there's a big paradigm between you and me where I'm saying that you don't have to eat animals, but I don't think it's morally wrong to eat animals. And you're saying specifically that, and it's morally wrong to put them into a bullpen like this and harvest them,
Yeah.
or do the culling, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's something I agree on with you. But
So where do you get the majority of your animal products from? Just curious. Like, do you hunt? Like, really, the most meat
No.
you eat is from
I
hunting,
used
or is
to.
it normally from the grocery store?
normally from the grocery store.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is what you're paying for. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so in a capitalistic world, that's how you make the strongest decisions you can make is with your money.
Profit,
So,
yeah, exactly.
So you're directly funding this.
Yeah. So again, if there's something that can be done, and I would like to see something done, because obviously this is not the best way to go about this.
Yeah.
There's other ways. Personally, I don't know the metrics or the levels of free range farming, so I can't really offer that up as a solution.
Yeah. So we.
Keep hold of that.
It's fine. There are, I can tell you something. These are all high animal welfare. So this pig is free range, and they actually use farrowing crates for the mothers, and it can still be classified as free range as long as the males aren't in the farrowing crates.
So
So
what do they
farrowing
classify
crate
as? So farrowing crate. Okay.
It's
Go
a metal cage that is literally big enough for the mother just to lay in. They can't even stand up in them most of the time.
And that's considered free range.
as long as the males are allowed to be in a pen, which is just, you've seen them probably before.
Like
it's
pig
like a
pen.
circular pen with mud in it. Yeah, yeah. As long
So
as
that
the
would be
males can be in
considered free
those and the females are in pheromone crates, that's free range. Or like for chickens, all you need is access to open field, or not even an open field. It could be like a 10 by 10 field or whatever. I don't know exactly how big the field needs to be, but I know that you only need to have one access point, and that there's not actually legislation on how large the access point needs to be. So what they do most of the time is they'll create one hole large enough for one chicken, and it will just create a blockade, and none of the chickens can actually get out to the field. And it's actually made it worse because before they used to have legislation about you could only have this many chickens inside of a barn, and that's considered free range.
Okay.
But they took away that legislation because people were like, but they're not even getting fresh air. And they made it to where, they get fresh air now, but now there's not even a legal limit to how far away they have to be. So that's
or
free
the
range.
size of the range.
And another big issue is the government doesn't actually set these standards. The industry sets these standards.
Oh, the industry. Okay.
Yeah, so that's, that is a massive issue that our legislators need to get on, is the fact that when you do see something said grass-fed or free range, it's actually the industry, a conglomerate, multiple, like Tyson and other people,
Tyson Foods,
basically started
Tosh.
some sort of certification industry. And when you see those certifications, it's just from basically a conglomerate of the largest animal agriculture industry certifying themselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the time, they don't even check up on the farms
Self-ordained,
and
some
stuff.
type of rubber stamp type deal.
Yeah, and so they're largely meaningless, is basically the message with these videos that I'm trying to get across, is that factory farms and free range are very much so similar things. Yeah, there's very mild differences.
Because
between
it's
the two.
set by the industry.
Yeah.
And obviously there's an issue with that, because in any gas in any capitalist society, profits follow the path of least resistance.
Yes. Yeah.
And this would obviously be the path of least resistance. And that's when, in my opinion, where government should step in.
Yeah.
But we're also getting really off track here. We're talking a lot about what can be done and what's currently going on.
Yeah.
The morality going back is, I believe a lot of morality is based off of what's natural in nature. And going back, a bear isn't going to see a human and question if it should eat it.
So let me give a dog, for example. When you feed a dog properly and it's part of society, does it just kill things needlessly? Does it just run up to every squirrel and kill it for no reason, or attack humans unnecessarily and try and kill them? Or do you think that animals actually also have a capacity to, when not in a survival situation, learn to not show aggression towards things that are not aggressive towards it?
I think that's incorrect, because I'm trying to remember the lady's name. Because there's an issue here. You're comparing a domesticated dog to general nature.
Yeah. We've domesticated raccoons, so, like, we have all sorts of domesticated animals. People have learned, people have wild bobcats and stuff, Yeah. People have lions that never attack them. Crazy stuff, yeah.
But we get into the situation, like I was going to say, where, I'm trying to remember that lady's name. She owned a chimp, and it basically, ripped her face off and ate it.
Yeah.
That chimp was not in a survival scenario. It might have been scared or something, but it started eating her.
Yeah.
So it's getting to that. And obviously, we've had Tiger King situations where people will have these animals in a zoo or in a habitat, and just, they're nice to them. But you also see in that documentary a woman got her arm ripped off.
Yeah.
So obviously, these animals do have a capacity to, and I'm talking more, let's use more animals that can do serious damage to humans, because it's easier to make my point. So lions, for example.
Yeah.
Obviously, lions are capable of not being hospitable towards humans, but at the end of the day, they know that I can rip this guy apart in seconds.
Yeah.
And they do it all the time if you're not careful.
Yeah. So, my main point when I was kind of trying to get to this, we got off topic a little bit, is so when the bear's attacking you in nature, it's in nature, when it sees something, it doesn't know if it's friend or foe. So as the larger animal, it's the smartest thing to just go ahead and kill it, because you don't know if it's going to try and stalk you, kill you, whatever. Yeah. And so it's in a survival situation and it's in nature,
Mm.
and so that's why I actually don't think it's immoral for that bear to kill you,
Mm.
you know? But, and it's not immoral for you to kill that bear in that scenario as well, where you're walking down a trail and all of a sudden a bear pops up out of nowhere and it's running at you or it's showing aggression at all. Like, it's not immoral for you to kill that bear because it's not a rights violation.
It's a self-defense situation.
Yeah, it's a self-defense situation. And I would argue that the bear is in a similar situation. So I'm drawing the difference in that we're not in a survival situation, and we don't have to do this to these animals at all. We actually breed them to existence just so we can do it to them, you know? Yeah, so that's the difference for me between a bear attacking us and us attacking these animals
Yes.
unnecessarily.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand that moral position because the bear, like you said, is in a survival scenario. But
Yeah.
I personally think that morality transcends virtually everything. And when it comes down to this, it's amoral, in my opinion. The bear's trying to eat, it's trying to consume. And that, I'm trying to loop this back because this is a very broad conversation. Because we're changing a lot back and forth from the morality of eating animals at all and the morality of eating
In
from
the
a
animal
factory.
agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to pinpoint it more because it's hard for me to make a point because that's where we're going at. We both agree that animal farming is
Yeah.
immoral.
Yeah, so we've established, I'll go ahead and say that. So we've established that animal farming, you deem it immoral, and that you do primarily gain your animal resources from animal agriculture. So you would agree that you're, in your own viewpoint, doing something immoral, correct?
Yes, because I'm contributing to the factory or the agriculture.
Okay, so then, yeah, we can talk about in like a hunting or survival scenario.
Well, we don't even have to talk
Or
about
not a
hunting,
survival, but
just
like
in a general scenario.
Yeah, a general or like primitive or whatever scenario, what naturistic. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm using nature as a prime example for the morality. I'm agreeing with you that the farm aspect is immoral, but what I'm getting at is the overall aspect I do not find immoral.
Okay.
The overall aspect of consuming animals. Now, here's the real question. Would you be more comfortable with these animals being consumed if they were in a situation where you did deem it free range, where legislation did step in and said, hey, they have to have a certain amount of square footage of open space per chicken?
Yeah.
Something like that.
All right. So I know we're not animals, but if, let's say, someone was going to kill your whole family unless you killed a homeless man or a college grad who has all the opportunity in the world, or a homeless man that's a crack addict and, you know, gets like raped every night or something, is it, you know, more moral that you kill the happy person, or is it more moral that you kill the sad person?
Well, that's a weird question because you're putting the moral situation of the death of many over the death of one. So,
Or like, let's just say you were in a scenario where, I don't know, just like this, you had to make that choice, not for any particular reason, but you just had to make that choice of like, do I kill the happy person or do I kill the sad person? Would it be better, in your opinion, to kill the sad person or the happy person? Because what I'm getting at
just
is,
flat, there's no factor line behind it, such as if I don't do this, a bunch of people are going to die.
yeah. Because basically what I'm trying to get at is that, you know, is it better for us to kill these animals just because they're happy? Does that make it any better? We're still taking their reality away. We're still ending their life. We're not torturing them before. I would agree that torture is, you know, cruel and unnecessary, but does it make the actual killing any more moral?
No, I would say not so, because if these chickens and pigs and other animals were allowed to roam nature naturally, they would have a lot more gruesome deaths and gruesome lives out in nature than they would existing in a free range where I said, for example, they had X amount of square footage per legislation stepped in.
So technically these chickens, cows, and pigs would not exist naturally, right? But let's go with this, you know, they're going to have a more gruesome death in nature. That is, it's still free will. So like, you know, just because you might one day be mugged and beaten and die, or you might have some sort of traumatic health issue where you suffer a slow, painful death, does that morally justify me cutting your life short so you don't have to experience that? And again, I know we're not animals, but I'm just using this to like compare the morals.
Yeah, no, I understand. Well, again, I also, as I stated earlier, they also, if they are given this free range, they are also given a more sustainable life. They don't have to forage for food. They don't have to worry where the next meal is, or starve to death, or thirst to death, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even know the right term. Thirst to death, starve to death, worry about literally a bear coming out of nowhere and jumping you at all times. They would live more of an oblivious life, just free range, doing as they please, and then one day the lights go out.
Yeah.
I would say that's better than them being in nature. Again, you come down to the situation of free will, and the issue is do these animals have free will? And then we get to the big moral question of what is free will, and I don't want to go down that road because that's a long road.
Know if we have free will. Yeah, because
it's a long
there's
road.
Arguments that we might not even have free will. So I do get what you're getting at there. But at the end of the day, we breed these animals into existence. For one, they wouldn't exist naturally in nature.
Yes.
You know, 80 billion land animals don't just exist randomly. Cows, specifically, yeah. We bred them into existence. So that's another thing is like, in a hunting scenario where you're going out into nature and killing this animal, that's totally different than the scenario you're talking about, where the animal lives in like your farm or your facility and you bred it into existence, but you just give it enough space and enough resources to where it lives a happy life, right? You're still breeding it into existence to ultimately kill it and eat it, right? And so would it be better for it to not exist overall? You know, I would probably say so, because you're just going to take its life away early anyway. Because for profits, you're going to have to kill it at like 5 years or something when it lives to 20 or, you know, something like that. But yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked a little, trying to think of what my point was.
Like I said, this conversation is very easy to get sidetracked on.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, what was your last point again?
My last point was, so I'll try to sum up my last few points because it's hard for me to remember when I just had listened to you. So my last few points were, obviously the current situation is bad because they're, like you said, living in a pen that they can barely even stand up in. But my counter argument was like, okay, would you be more in favor of it if legislation stepped in and actually gave them, like I said, for example, certain square footage of space required per one, increased taxes, stuff like that, so that way they live a happy life, I would say, because they don't have to worry about food, they don't have to worry about water, they don't have to worry about being eaten by a bear, and they just live their life, and then one day the lights go out.
Yeah. So is it more moral than the current situation?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Is it moral? I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Because we're still doing it unnecessarily. We're still breeding into existence when we don't need to, and then we're ultimately killing them when we don't need to. So I would still say that's, you know, unnecessarily abuse of animals, abuse and exploitation of animals, because you're also enslaving them. You don't give them their opportunity to roam and find their own foods they want to eat, because maybe they don't want to eat the shit you're giving them or whatever, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then it comes into the situation where you said earlier that without us, these animals wouldn't have an existence at all.
Yeah.
So because of that, because of us, they have an existence. They experience life, or a life. I don't know what a chicken life is like, but it's a life. But they experience a life, and without us, they wouldn't be able to survive in nature. They wouldn't even be here in the first place. So I think the issue with breeding them into existence, I can understand, because you're breeding them for purposes of consuming them.
Yeah.
But I'm also confused because, like I said, without us, they wouldn't be here in the first place.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even have a life.
Yeah.
And is your argument that it would be better if we just let them all die out?
Yeah, so if we just slowly, because it's not going to be an overnight thing, right? Veganism is going to be a slow thing. It might not even, in my lifetime, it might not even be a thing that, you know, we significantly reduce the consumption of animals. I hope it is. But it's not going to just be, It's not just going to be like an overnight flip and that we have to like let these animals free or kill them all or whatever. It's going to be a slow, gradual reduction of these animals, and what's going to happen is they're going to take up less land, more wildlife will be able to form, and the natural world will kind of come back to place. Because currently we use 70% of the livable land for the animal agriculture industry. So yeah.
70% of the
Livable land.
our livable land, like
Yeah, yeah.
inhabitable land for humans. So okay, I see your point. So your point is if we could stop or cease to breed these into existence, there'll be more available land for
other things.
other things and
that
other
have
activities.
their own choices to make. Like that we're not violating their rights. We're not exploiting them, killing them, etc.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So that's a very valid point because I didn't know that 70% of livable land is used for farming animals.
Yeah, it's a lot worse than people realize. But if you think about the fact that 9 billion people on Earth need to eat 3 meals a day, and most of them eat it with animal products in every single meal.
Makes sense.
It makes
I'm not
sense
saying you're
that
wrong.
80 billion land animals die a year, 2 trillion incorporate fish, takes up 70% of our livable land. We could actually feed everyone in the world if we just fed them plants. Because, you learn in like middle school that like 16 plant calories create like 1 animal calorie or whatever. Because it's like conversion. Like you don't store all the energy consumed.
Yeah. So, and then that's also going down the road of nutrition, which I knew was going to happen because it's just inherent with this
Part of it.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to get into the nutrition aspect because I like to think I know a lot about nutrition, but I also am like I'm not a nutritionist. But I will say I feel like from what I've experienced that it's not impossible, obviously, because you do it, to live off of plants only. But my counter argument, I've told you this before, is that it's extremely difficult and sometimes not viable.
So I'd argue that it's only extremely difficult because we have lack of access to information. The only reason we know how to sustainably live off of animals and live a quote-unquote healthy life off of animals is because we're aware of how to do it. We've done it for generations, right? Veganism is a fairly new thing. You saw like small pops up, like Pythagoras was allegedly vegan and like Jainist cultures or something like that.
Yeah, very
But
specifics.
Yeah,
but,
it's never really had a movement until now, right? And so I would argue that it's actually very easy for me. I don't have any issue with it, and that if you're just properly educated on how to live a vegan lifestyle, that it's not any harder than living an omnivore lifestyle. So
Yeah, and
so I would just say that's more access to information. Which, if you're interested in learning how to eat more vegan and
I will gladly learn
incorporate,
because I do enjoy nutrition. And I would like to have more information on it because I would like to incorporate other meals that aren't just meat based. But getting back to the point, again, we're still arguing nutrition here. I feel like from an issue of evolution, if we evolved, some Christians, for example, don't believe we evolved. We lived off of these animals. We consumed these animals, we hunted them, and eventually farmed them, and we've been doing that a lot longer than we've been doing veganism. And I personally think because of that, we should incorporate meat into our diets. Now, obviously, you can live off of plants. That's established. I don't know how difficult it is because I've never tried it. I just know from what I've seen, it can be slightly difficult. But yeah, I feel like we have evolved and lived our entire human existence off of these animals, so it has to play some role in our nutrition.
So in the modern world, and again, this is kind of a nutrition thing, but in the modern world, we don't need to eat animal products. We have supplements. We have, even if you're not eating a wide variety enough of plant products to get all your micronutrients or whatever, you can just supplement them. You can take creatine, you can take vitamins, whatever.
Creatine,
and you're welcome to look at the studies yourself, but from what I've seen, there's no negative health consequences to simply supplementing nutrients over actually consuming them. I'm not recommending that you just supplement all your nutrients or anything. I'm just saying that I haven't seen any evidence suggesting that it's going to have negative health effects. And then it goes back to the issue of if we're accepting that, you know, a vegan diet can be nutritionally adequate, and then we're accepting the fact that eating animals could be unnecessary, right? And so you also talked about other things, like maybe people have allergies or something. Where
I never brought up allergies, but fair enough.
You said like they might have other circumstances or something. Yeah. And so I would say for those instances, you know, majority of the time, even if they have like a wheat allergy or something, they can actually eat a vegan diet fairly easily. And again, it's just an education thing. It's that initial hump. Once you learn how to do it, now you know how to do it. Easy to do it the rest of your life, right? But if there was a situation where someone literally could not survive off of a vegan diet, then that is actually still a vegan lifestyle for you to incorporate small amounts of animal products, because it's an out of necessity thing. The vegan stance is the unnecessary exploitation and murder of animals. Yeah.
See, I didn't know that, and that's one of the primary reasons I wanted to have this conversation, because I don't know anything about veganism. I've actually never talked to vegans. I mean, I probably have, but I've never actually talked about the subject of veganism. Now, here's me being a dummy. This is how little I know. I don't know the difference between vegans and vegetarians. I'm pretty sure vegetarians don't eat any animal products, not milk, not eggs. Could be wrong. Correct me.
So it's different. So it's the opposite.
It's vice versa. That's like hilarious.
Vegans don't eat any animal products. No milk, no eggs, nothing. And vegetarians do eat milk and eggs. Do you want to understand like why we don't?
Do you want to move out of the sun?
No, I'm fine. Do you want to understand why we don't eat milk and eggs too? Is that what you're
that's sure, why not? Because I know one of them was one or the other. I just didn't know which one.
Yeah. So I normally go with dairy. This is how I go through it. Is so do you know why cows produce milk?
For their offspring.
Yeah. So in order for the cow to produce milk, it had to have a child, right? And so we don't just, you know, let that naturally happen. What we do is we do something called artificial insemination. And so the farmer will shove his arm elbow deep up the cow's anus, and it will open up its vulva, and then it will shove a metal syringe up its vagina and insert the semen into it and impregnate it. And then what happens is normally within weeks after that child is born, sometimes even the day of the child's birth, they will rip that baby away from the mother. And if it's a male, it's put in the veal industry and killed. If it's a female, it's then raised to the point where it can have offspring, and then it will have those children taken. And what we'll do is we'll take that milk and consume it ourselves. Yeah. And so that's still exploitation. We're, you know, obviously abusing them doing that too, where, you know, a lot of people take offense to this, but I would classify that as rape. So we're raping them and then kidnapping their children over and over. And cows do have a capacity to yearn for their kids. I've seen the videos.
Well,
they'll cry for
animals
kids.
in general. Yes.
Yeah, they're maternal beings.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's still an exploitive thing. I actually view the dairy industry as like one of the worst industries there is, period, because of that. And 85%, I believe, of dairy cows go to the slaughterhouse anyway after about 5 or 6 years, when they can live to about 25. And so, you know, we'll rape them, kidnap their kids, take their milk for 6 years, and then because they've had kids over and over and over and over again, their body's not functioning properly anymore, they're not producing milk, whatever the reason. So then we'll send them to the slaughterhouse. And normally, companies don't even wait till their body's not actually producing. They just set a standard of like, typically the cow stops producing after 5 years, so we just send them at 5 years no matter what. Yeah. And so the dairy industry is disgusting. With the egg industry, obviously they have to exploit the chickens. They keep them in small areas, lamb, whatever. And then the male chicks, they're not necessary to the industry. So what they do is they throw them in a giant macerator, a blender. And so like when you get chicken nuggets from McDonald's, that's actually a bunch of blended up baby chicks, male baby chicks.
Oh, male baby chicks. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, because I know with chickens, the eggs that are consumed aren't fertilized eggs.
Yeah.
So technically you're not eating a baby chick, but you also are at the same time. And
you're still contributing to the murder of them.
Yes. So, but again, we're looping back to the conversation where it's the current industry is morally reprehensible.
Yeah.
Because it is. I mean, they're exploiting them and they're not really giving them a sustainable life. They're not actually free range. And my primary issue with that, other than the exploitation of animals is the fact it's being lied to consumers. You're being told it's
called
free range.
greenwashing. A bunch of industries do it, not even just the animal agriculture industry.
Lying by omission, basically.
Yeah. It's like they'll claim like we're doing more green stuff when they actually didn't do anything more green, so people will shop for them, or we're more humane, or whatever.
Yes. So you're lying to consumers at that point, which is that in of itself, not in a capitalistic nature, obviously in a capitalistic nature, but in a moral nature, that is morally reprehensible as well, because you're just lying to people. You're just lying to them. You're telling them one thing and it's complete opposite. But we keep looping back to the current animal agriculture, which we both agree is morally reprehensible at the moment. I think what we need to focus on is the more broad aspect of consuming animals itself. Because I keep going back to the fact that they were...
So, I would like to actually say that I will concede there's technically ways you can consume animals that aren't immoral, right? So we established if the animal violates your rights, it's a self-defense thing, and so if you were to defend yourself, kill that animal, then eat its flesh.
We've also established earlier, like hogs, for example.
Like invasive species, but again, I would argue they're violating your rights and violating the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to argue against killing the hogs, because I've said this to you earlier, one hog can eat an entire acre of land by itself.
He did bring up a great point when I talked to him about it earlier, and he brought up what we do with like cats, where we catch, spay, release, right? And so like technically we could, like, instead of poisoning their feed, just put some sort of birth control in their feed to where they can't reproduce anymore, period. Yeah, and so like we don't necessarily have to kill them, but I would agree that there's morally nothing wrong with killing something that's violating your rights or violating something else's rights.
Exactly. But that's
or
a practical
like if
issue
you found
too,
like
but anyways.
roadkill or something and you ate that, there's nothing moral. You didn't.
Don't
do
eat
anything to
roadkill.
that.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I would concede that the consumption of animals in general is not necessarily immoral. There are ways you could go about it, but there are no logistical ways that you could go about it in our modern world, besides like eating roadkill or eating out of dumpsters or something.
So here's a real question I should ask. What is I feel like you've already expressed it, but I would like to hear it again. What's your opinion on hunting?
So, I would just go back to the unnecessary part. So if you're kind of going out of your way to take this trip into the forest, find this animal, kill it, and then you're consuming its flesh, when you could have just stayed home and ate some plants, And so you're still ending its life. You're taking its reality away. So it's still deem it immoral. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. A lot of hunters, and I understand that you're going out of your way, but other animals go out of their way to consume other animals as well.
Yeah. But we did establish earlier that just because something might face a more gruesome death in its future doesn't mean that it makes it morally okay for you to end its life early, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm getting at too, because with hunting, the game of hunting is more, it's a sport. It's not necessarily a game, it's a sport. And the reason it's a sport is because we are competing against the animals. An animal doesn't have to land, like, let's take duck hunting, for example. This duck doesn't have to land inside of the pond. It can see the decoys. Ducks have really good eyes. They can see the decoys, but some ducks still do. And that comes down to the hunting aspect. If ducks could do the same thing to us, they would.
Yeah. So you're kind of making like it's almost like it's like a 2-in-1 argument. You almost made like a might makes right argument, where like if the ducks couldn't necessarily do that to us and they did, like there's nothing wrong with that. And then you also kind of made an argument of you kind of made it seem like they want to die in a way, like they're allowing you to kill them almost.
Well, they're not allowing, they've been deceived.
Yeah.
We've played them. It's a sport that we're competing against them, like I said.
And so that was about to be my point, is that the animal there might be some animals that willfully want to die. Like people want to kill themselves sometimes. But the majority of the time, that animal doesn't want to die. It wants to survive. And so you're still, taking that right away from it. And you're deceiving it to do so, and just because it fell for the deception doesn't, just because I played a trick on you doesn't mean that whatever I do to you is morally okay.
Yes, that's fair enough, but then that comes into the situation of your primary argument throughout most of this was the animal agriculture industry, but now we've removed that. These are ducks or deer or whatever you choose to hunt in nature. They're living free. They're doing as they please. We are just intercepting them because we're hunting them.
Yeah.
Just like a cat would intercept a deer by sneaking up on it while it's drinking and then biting its head off.
Yeah. And so I would go back to the fact of the matter that these carnivorous animals, these predator animals in nature, have to do that to live.
Okay.
They can't go to the grocery store and buy whatever plant foods they're going to buy to eat off of. They have to eat that. They might be ugly carnivores, they might just be starving, whatever, but they're going to die if they don't take down that prey animal. And so that's where I would draw the moral difference, is they're doing it out of necessity, whereas you're kind of going out of your way to do it, right? Yeah.
Fair enough. And that comes down to the situation where you're requiring people to live off of this grid, which I find, and not requiring, but you're requesting it. I don't think people should necessarily have to be sufficient on the grid to survive.
Yeah.
Because if those trucks stop moving, that doesn't matter how much wheat we grow, it's going to not be at the stores.
Yeah. So I'd say there's nothing morally wrong with you figuring out how to do these things, practicing these things, learning how to survive in a survival scenario. And if you live in a tribalistic area or a non-modern area where you don't have access to resources, again, it's out of necessity. But I would make the case that, if you live in a modern world and you're choosing to live in this grid by yourself already, that it is a moral obligation for you.
Okay. So I would say, just hit my funny bone. So I would say, I could be wrong. I'm just going to throw words out there. And if you agree, you tell me. If you disagree, you can disagree. But I feel what it seems like your argument is that if you are in a situation where you consume animals to survive, then there's nothing morally wrong with that. But if you're in a situation where it's modern society, where we can go to the grocery store and get a week's worth of food in a moment, then that will be morally reprehensible to consume animals.
And we could discuss these situations, like if you lived in the middle of the country and you had to drive 4 hours to the grocery
like Nebraska
store,
or something like that.
Yeah, like I would still say like I'm not gonna say you're like Hitler or something for going out and hunting a deer, but I would still say the more moral choice would for you to take that 4-hour trip to the grocery store instead of going out and hunting the deer, right? But if you're in a literal tribal scenario where you do not have access to these resources, then obviously don't just let yourself die.
Yeah, exactly. And those are valid points, but it just comes down to what you said earlier. It makes me sound like an asshole, but it's fairly true in this aspect, is that might is right. Because obviously if we use the might is right in a lot of situations, it makes me look like a complete douchebag. But in this situation, where it comes to animals, where there is no reason to be had with them, there is no conversation we can have with a pig, they're in existence and they are surviving, then I see no issue with the might is right argument in this aspect. Because again, a bear will eat you if it needs to, but then that goes back to the situation where you're saying the bears need to survive.
So I would just say that I don't think might makes right is a good moral basis for anything. And I think you, as you said, like the reduction of that, if you applied it to different scenarios, like it becomes pretty obvious that might makes right isn't necessarily a thing. So I would kind of argue that you already know that's a little bit of a moral dishonesty on your end, that you shouldn't do things just because might makes right.
But that again comes down to my primary argument that I made, is the nature morality. And just because something's natural doesn't make it moral. Just because something's natural doesn't make it moral? Not necessarily. But it comes down to the fact that, like I said, bear will eat you, or like I said earlier, a chimpanzee is going to eat you even if it's not in a survival situation. It's still going to do it. It doesn't care.
So like
And going back to the Tiger King example, I could be wrong, but I feel like a lot of these people, when they go into these cages and they're with these animals, they either fill them to the brim with food, or to the point where they're lackadaisical because all their energy's going to consumption, or they sedate them.
Yeah.
I don't think any person in their right mind, no matter how long they've been working with these animals, would go into a cage with an animal that hasn't been recently fed and or sedated.
Yeah, so I would just say that we've seen animals have a capacity for many things, and I'm going to go to the domestic dog here again, that they have the capacity to communicate in ways. For example, my dog rings a bell when she wants to go outside. So she's communicating to me that she wants to go outside, she needs to go to the bathroom, whatever. So they have various ways to communicate with us, and they have various ways to actually live with humans. Animals have lived with humans throughout history in many different ways, and different animals have different capacities to do this, but I would also say this capacity doesn't justify their murder, right? And the animals that we primarily kill are herbivorous animals that have no capacity to harm us. A cow would simply run every single time it saw a human. There is no instance where a cow would try and take on a human, you know? Yeah.
Well, and this might just be my ignorance on the part, but I mean, and this is just a small example. A bull, for example, will attack a human if it deems fit.
Yeah.
But what you're getting at here is that just because an animal does it, for example, like a lion or a chimp or something like that, does not make it morally right.
Yeah.
But it comes down to the situation in that when your consumption of animals, I feel like when it comes down to the consumption of other species, it is a might versus right situation. A fish isn't going to eat us because it can't. I mean, I'm throwing that, but that's a different situation.
Some fish could. Yeah,
Some fish could.
Yeah.
But a goldfish isn't going to eat a human because it literally does not have the capacity to. Just like I said, a chimp will because it does have the capacity to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't care about morals. That's what I'm getting.
So, like, for example, most people claim sharks aren't interested in eating humans and stuff like that, right? So we can establish
They're scared by humans.
Yeah, we can establish that not all animals necessarily eat us just because they're stronger than us, right? And so,
I could be wrong, but I feel like the shark examples are incorrect example because from my understanding, they're afraid of humans.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were just chilling here and something about half your size or maybe even the same size as you just fell from the sky, you'd be terrified.
Yeah. Well, so for example, like elephants, you know, they have in some instances charged humans, whatever, but that's normally when the human's showing a sign of aggression or they're extremely scared
or they're
whatever,
intimidated,
which is they're acting out of self-defense, right? But if a human just approaches an elephant normally, maybe has some leaf in its hand, whatever, an elephant's not just going to stomp you because it's bigger than you, right?
Well, it wouldn't do that because it would gain nothing from doing that. Because it cannot. I mean, maybe elephants can consume humans. I don't think they can. I doubt it. So, it attacking you and doing damage to you, it wouldn't do that because it'd be wasting energy on a fruitless effort.
Yeah.
A lion, the reason it attacks you is because it is either intimidated or it knows it can eat you and wants to eat you.
Yeah.
So that's the situation we rise in. But again, we keep getting off topic. We're going to the situation where the overall moral consumption of animals.
Yeah.
And again, I am stating that the reason I keep going back to nature is because it happens in nature all the time, and we have raised our entire lives, not entire lives, but our entire species on the consumption of animals. And I think bringing up the aspect of domesticated animals is not a very good example because these animals have also been bred and to live with humans and commune with humans.
But it does show that the animals have the capacity to do that.
Eventually, through genetic engineering, I guess it is not engineering, but I forget the right term.
Yeah, I'm
selective breeding. That's what it is.
So I'm not a zoologist. I don't know if it is possible for us to live with a lion or whatever. But what I would say is that like oftentimes when you see these examples of like maybe a lion in like the Lion King, dude, what is his name again?
Simba?
No. The dude that where she got her arm bit off.
Oh, Tiger King?
Tiger King.
Yes,
Yeah. Lion King. Yeah. The Tiger King. Like for that example, those animals are like forced to live inside of a cage, and they're stared at all day by things they don't know, and they're probably agitated, and they're probably acting out of some sort of rage or self-defense or something. And yeah, I would argue that like if an animal is free to do whatever it wants and it's used to you, it knows you're not harmful, and it's fed and it sees you, even a lion probably wouldn't waste its energy to come kill you for no reason.
I think that's incorrect, because the woman who got her arm bit off was a zoo worker, and she's been working with those animals for several years. So
Yeah.
they knew who she was. They knew she feeds
But
them.
as I said, in a zoo, for example, they live their life inside of a cage. They know they're in
So
a
the
cage.
argument is that they're agitated. Like
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, they're not. Is that they're not in a normal, lax state. I would argue that animals, even carnivorous, obligate carnivore animals, that have to eat meat, even they, if they were properly fed and not in any sort of agitated state, they wouldn't waste their energy. As you said earlier, they would gain nothing from it. They wouldn't exert their energy. To
For
kill you.
example, like a cow or a elephant or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is just, the more we delve into this, I feel like it's more of a difficult conversation to have. Because like I said, we do bounce back and forth, because it is a very vague and difficult discussion to have, because like we already established, there's agriculture that's currently going on, current methods, but overall we're trying to argue the legitimacy of eating animals, period. So, for example, hunting. I want to go back to that, because I still don't see anything wrong with hunting animals.
Okay.
It's going out into nature. Your primary arguments this entire time has been the abuse of animals. But when we go out and we hunt these animals, we're not abusing them, we're hunting them. We're doing what other creatures in nature do. We are subject to this nature just like they are, subject to this land just like they are. But as you said, you're probably going to say, I could be wrong, that we don't need to anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, you said we're subject to this nature just like they are, but we're not. We're not subject to nature at all. Like, we're in the middle of a park, and we're not subject to nature besides like trees.
But we are subject to nature, because if it rains, we have to leave. If there's a tornado, it's going to take us up.
But we're not. We're not out here surviving, scared every single moment that some sort of predator animal might come murder us, and we're not currently participating in the natural food chain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. We're your primary argument is, as the apex predator, which we are, is it morally acceptable to consume those underneath us in the food chain?
Yeah. And so, what I'm saying is that we've reached such a point as an apex predator that we don't even have to go out of the way to kill y'all anymore.
We don't have to go into nature to consume. Yes.
That we can literally just live off of plants in the modern world. And so by you going out into nature, choosing to go on a hunting expedition or whatever, you're going out into nature and you're taking this resource from another animal that would kill it, as you say, and you're also taking that animal's life away. And so I would still say it's morally wrong. If we want to work on a shade of morally wrongness, I would agree that hunting is less morally wrong than the current animal agriculture industry, but I would still say it's more immoral than a vegan diet.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And I think that's where we need to pinpoint on, is because the issue that you're primarily pointing out is that we don't have to consume animals anymore, so why do we? And that is a difficult situation to be in, because my only rebuttal to that, at least right now, is because they would do it to us. And also because we've also lived off these diets forever. Obviously, you can supplement. Personally, I'm no nutrition, I could be wrong, but I feel like your body has more to gain from the natural process of consuming the food than taking supplements.
So, like I said, I'm not a nutrition expert. You're welcome to do your own research. The American Health Association of Dietetics has recognized that a vegan diet is livable for all stages of life, including pregnancy and child care, or child age, whatever. And there are numerous studies actually suggesting that a vegan diet has health benefits, such as reduction in cancer risk, reduction in heart disease risk, and I'll go into a little bit of why it would reduce heart disease risk. So heart disease is caused by cholesterol, lack of fiber, and saturated fat. And on a vegan diet, everything you eat has some amount of fiber, whereas
Yes,
no
obviously.
animal products have fiber. And then nothing you eat has any amount of cholesterol. So now you only have to worry about one risk factor, which is saturated fat. So I would argue that when done properly, a vegan diet is actually healthier. From the research that I've seen, as I've said, please do your own research. Go on PubMed, look it up, look at the studies. Two that I always point people to are the Advantis Vegetarian Cohort, I believe, and the Oxford study. And these are both studies done on large population groups over, the Adventis one was done over, I think, 36 years.
Okay.
And so, they really blood test regularly, stuff like that. Yeah. And they followed these people over a long period of time, thousands of people. So that's really good evidence, in my opinion. So I would argue that if you find out that there is no large health risks to going on a vegan diet, that it is a moral obligation for you to start learning how to go on that vegan diet. For you to start doing your research and trying to figure out how you can make that switch.
No, I understand, and oh man, why am I so gassy? No, I understand what you're saying. I would have to look at these studies because I've never looked at them before. I would love to, but I feel like with this conversation, ultimately, the reason we come to nutrition is because that is a very valid concern to have.
Yeah, because like I said earlier, it's the need list. So if there was a need, you were not able to live off of plant products, then yeah, I would agree that you should eat animal products.
Okay.
But I do believe that we don't live in a world where we need to eat animal products, and that the science does agree that it's actually negative health-wise for us to eat animal products at this point.
No, I understand. And again, I feel like this comes down to a situation. I could be wrong, but I feel like it does come down to a situation with these factors that the issue now is that the large portion of the population overconsumes and meat, and because of that overconsumption, I feel like I could be wrong. Like I said, this is why I gotta look at the studies. I feel like with the natural consumption of this meat, I got sidetracked by that bee. What was I saying? Oh, I have to see it because we overconsume now.
Yeah.
So any reduction to that overconsumption will obviously have positive feedback.
Yeah. So your argument that is a very moderate amount of meat consumption would be healthier than no meat consumption, right? That's the argument you're trying to say.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to see. My counter argument is maybe these studies look so good because we currently overconsume.
Yeah.
The average is overconsumption.
Yeah.
I would like to see what it would look like if it was moderate consumption, something where it wasn't literally, because our ancestors, for example, while the human species evolved, meat was a delicacy, which was discussed earlier.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Meat was still part of their diet. We were raised as a species on that. So I think a moderate consumption of meat could be healthier than either no consumption of meat and definitely overconsumption of meat.
Yeah.
I feel like in a lot of situations, I feel like taking the extreme on an example, extreme on any side, I feel like there's some negatives there.
Yeah.
I could be wrong because like I said, I came here and I've never talked to vegans before, so.
Yeah. So my argument would be then that let's say it's given that very moderate consumption of animal products is in fact a healthier lifestyle. Now we're talking about how much healthier, because we've established that a vegan diet is largely healthier than the typical American or Western diet of high animal product consumption, right? And
Overconsumption of anything is bad.
Yeah. And
Too much air can kill you.
Yeah. And so we're looking at how much better would you be living, and is that worth the murder of hundreds of animals throughout your lifetime, right? So let's say you live 2 years longer. Is that worth you killing probably almost 1,000, maybe more animals across your life? I don't know how many animals you're eating on this moderate consumption diet.
There's no way to know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm throwing out there. I'm glad you understand my point.
Yeah.
Is you understand the point of these all vegan diets are being compared to something that is obviously unhealthy.
Yeah.
Overconsumption of anything is bad.
And I'm sure they actually do have studies where they compare vegan diets to healthy
And I would love to see those
diets.
diets. 'Cause,
Yeah. But if we're working off of the argument that,
the
eating
moderate
a
consumption would
moderate,
be more healthy.
yeah.
Well,
I would
according-
still argue that the benefits would be so moderate and that life is so unguaranteed because there's so many different factors like genetics, autoimmune, disease, accidents, whatever, that it's likely that will not actually make a difference, and that if it is, it's a very moderate life happiness and life expectancy difference, and it's not worth the death of
Okay.
likely hundreds of thousands of people.
Fair enough. So we need to go back to the point of the necessity of survival to consume animals, because you agree that if you need it to survive, then you see nothing morally reprehensible with it. But the issue is that if it has been determined that the consumption of animals is overall more healthy for you, even if it's not the overconsumption, if it's a moderate consumption. And again, this goes back to I would love to have to see these studies. But according to your previous argument, since it would be healthier and a better lifestyle and just a better life, then therefore it's not morally reprehensible.
Yeah, so I would say, you would have to quantify how much better life it is. Because I would argue as long as it's not exponential, like as long as you're not talking 30, 40, 50 years and, very increased well-being experience, that it is still morally reprehensible. Because at the end of the day, the survival situations I'm talking about, I was talking about immediate survival, right? And so you would die in the short term if you're not consuming that animal. And so you're talking about now a long-term survival situation, which is a lot harder to quantify. Because, as I said, like,
There's
is
a
it
lot of
a year?
variables
Is it
at play.
2 years? Is it 1% happiness? Like, you have to quantify all these things to decide whether it's more moral.
And
Yeah,
this,
and I couldn't make that stance of whether it would be immoral or not unless you could quantify those things. I would just say that with the current literature, it looks as though it's a very moderate, if any, difference, if maybe even a negative difference, and that it's more moral to be on a vegan diet.
fair enough. So I feel like that's where both of us in this conversation come to a roadblock, because I have never seen these studies. I would have to look at them. And again, my counter argument to these studies is there's a potential that they could be skewed because they're being compared to an overconsumption, not a moderate consumption. I could be wrong. I have to check the studies. And that's the issue we run into, because we are saying, hey, at this point we need to see hard evidence of it, and we don't have it on hand right now, which is fine. But I will gladly look into it later. So that's the primary point, is the health aspect. And the secondary point is that they are living creatures as well. And you believe they should be extended rights, correct? So are those your two main points? Do you have any other points I might be missing?
Yeah, just the unnecessary exploitation and murder of sentient beings. Yeah, and immoral. Yeah.
So those 2 points are correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. And when it comes to that conversation, we keep going back and forth on that second point. The first point we've come to a roadblock on. The second point comes down to the fact that we are consuming another sentient being. And again, I go back to the example of hunting. We're consuming them. See, that's the issue. I want to go back to the roadblock situation, but there's no way forward until we look at the studies. But if you were in a situation where moderate consumption of animals was proven to be more beneficial for the human species or human experience, whatever you want to say, would you be okay with the free range and the consumption of hunted animals?
So, I mean, it would have to be like a very, in order for you to quantify taking something's life, it would have to be a pretty substantial well-being gain you would have to have. But if you had a very, very substantial well-being gain, meaning years and years and years of life, and like increased well-being to a very large degree, like yeah, I couldn't argue that moderate consumption would probably be moral, but that would likely indicate that we're like obligate carnivores or something, which there's no science to indicate that, you know. But yeah, I think that definitely we could possibly end here, and I would just say,
yeah, we've just really come to a roadblock, because I do have to look at these studies, and
Yeah.
you understand what I'm saying. Like, there is a possibility that's being compared to this
yeah,
overconsumption.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I would just say that as we've established, the majority of where you get your animal agriculture from is from grocery stores and the modern animal agriculture industry, and that you've agreed that you think it's immoral, and that you've also agreed that if there is no well-being increase, that animal consumption in general is likely immoral, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then
If there's no, especially in the situation where we're being lied to,
Yeah.
where they're saying it's free range, stuff like that.
yeah, so then I would ask, do you feel a moral obligation to now do research and try and figure out how to live on a vegan diet, or
Oh,
see
yes,
if
definitely.
it is
Like I
sustainable
said-
to live on a vegan diet?
Like I said earlier, I'm mostly interested in the nutrition aspect of it, because I've always heard about it, and I know just from certain aspects it can be slightly difficult. For example, there's 9 branched amino acids, which is just protein, 9 different types of protein. You get all 9 of them in chicken, and you just eat it. You can get most of whatever you need from
Yeah.
chicken. And
One thing you could watch that's not even studies, but it's a great resource that looks at athletics and a vegan diet. Have you seen The Game Changers or heard of The Game Changers?
no, I haven't heard of it.
All right, so it's a documentary just on Netflix, and you can watch it, and they talk about a lot of that. Yeah, and the guy who made it is on the Joe Rogan Experience, because they tried to discredit him, and Joe Rogan at the end of the podcast even admitted that he was wrong, and that James Wilkes, the creator of the documentary, was correct. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I will gladly look into it, because
Yeah.
it has been something, like I said earlier, I've really never talked to vegans about the
Yeah.
subject until today.
And I never did until I found on YouTube like what was actually happening. So yeah, most people don't. You don't walk through the grocery store and see a piece of steak and really think what goes into that and how we get it and stuff like that. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that you haven't thought about it or you haven't talked to a vegan. Everyone definitely has to learn at some point.
There's a point, yeah, exactly. So now, obviously, we've come into a roadblock, so we can't really further this conversation until I do my homework. But this is my last question for you. So, when did you go vegan?
I went vegan almost 3 full years ago.
How has that experience been compared to before the event and
Yeah.
after the event? What is the difference in your opinion?
I first started going vegan when I was in high school, and the end of high school senior year, and it was more of a plant-based diet because I actually saw the nutritional benefits on the internet, and I wasn't fully vegan. I was eating a lot of animal products still. I was cheating a lot on my diet because I had no moral obligation. It was just like, oh, I want to be healthier, you know? But another issue at the time is I was under eating in general. I mean, you knew me in high school. I was like a $110.
Yeah.
So, and I was running track every single day, not
Burning
eating
those
any
calories
food.
like
yeah.
mad, yeah.
And so I was extremely emaciated and not eating a healthy diet in general. So I have seen extreme well-being gains off of a vegan diet.
Okay, so I could be wrong, but you would say your anecdotal evidence can't really be compared, because before you went vegan, you were under-consuming.
Yeah, I was
in
just
general.
overall unhealthy.
You're just
Yeah.
overall unhealthy.
Yeah,
So there's
smoking
real
ridiculous amounts of weed, running way too much.
Yeah.
Like
not eating
not
enough.
eating.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
really no way for you to compare the previous
Yeah,
and after. Okay, that's fair enough.
anecdotally, I could not tell you that. All I'm going to tell you is that anecdotally, I've seen the evidence that suggests that a vegan diet is the healthiest diet,
Or empirically.
and that I have, and that I have experienced an extreme well-being gain on a vegan diet. Yeah, I've been able to put on muscle. I used to wake up actually first year of college. I don't know if it was anxiety, diet related, whatever. I would have morning sickness every morning.
When you went vegan, or?
No.
Oh,
Before
okay.
I was vegan,
Okay.
because this was when I was still like plant-based, not vegan all the way. Yeah. So first semester of college, I would wake up every single morning and throw up. Second semester of college was the first semester that I went vegan.
Damn, bro, we
Never
just eating like
happened
raw
again.
meat. The fuck? Like, that's what it sounds like. Were you
No.
eating roadkill?
No, I was just eating like, it was just like a bunch of like takeout food.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It was honestly mostly a standard American Western diet. It's just, I think I also have a lot of intolerances people don't have. Like, I found that I have an extreme dairy intolerance. I think that was the big factor with my morning sickness.
Well, I actually found this out recently, that the consumption of another species' milk is actually a mutation. It's not natural. Humans don't naturally want to consume other animals' milk.
Yeah.
Or can.
And a
Lactose
lot of
intolerance
humans
is natural.
haven't. Yeah, I think if you take the world's population, it's like almost 70 or 80% of the world is lactose intolerant. So, yeah, I mean, I would argue that definitely milk is disgusting industry, and you should really cut out milk.
Well,
for sure,
milk
but-
is disgusting to begin with. It's coming out of an udder.
I mean, just try oat milk and soy milk and stuff. You know, like I would definitely.
I have
get
tried
away from
cashew milk, and that shit was awesome. It tasted so good. It was chocolate
I don't
cashew
think
milk.
I've ever actually tried cashew milk.
It was
but
good. I will say it was good. It was a little too sweet, but like I said, it was chocolate.
I always go to soy milk. It doesn't taste like dairy milk or whatever, but I actually enjoy the taste. more than dairy milk.
Tell me if this is an urban legend, because it might be, because you would obviously know more about this than anyone.
That soy produces estrogen.
Yes.
Yeah, so the myth that this came from is that soy contains something called phytoestrogen, and so onions also contain something called phytotestosterone. And so we've done studies on both of these, and we found that they don't actually interact with animal estrogen or testosterone at all. And logically, if you would make the argument that soy would increase estrogen, then you would have to also logically agree that onions would increase testosterone.
Yeah.
So like you could just be eating raw onions and you'd be a juice head, you know? Yeah. So it's pretty
You'd be jacked to the
widely discredited that soy has any interaction with estrogen. There's actually funny videos too of it's this guy called U Bomber Guy or something. He makes like mean political videos, but he did one video where he only consumed soy for 3 months, only soy products, and he took a testosterone test. He took a testosterone test before and after, and his testosterone actually moderately increased.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
I would say that's definitely been widely discredited that soy increases estrogen at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if that was an urban legend or not.
Yeah.
I've just always heard
It
that.
did. I think it did come just because of phytoestrogen. Like people saw that in there and they were like, estrogen. Yeah. But I would actually like to point out that many animal products, again, dairy to a large extent, has hormones in it. It has actual active animal hormones in it.
Well,
And-
again, that comes back to the situation of humans are naturally capable of consuming
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And so those things are way less healthy than, eating some phytoestrogen. Eating actual estrogen obviously is gonna way more likely impact your animal hormone levels. Yeah.
You know, I understand. And then you get into the situation of creatine, but which is extracted from red meat, right?
Yeah. So many people supplement with creatine anyway, because even if you chugged red meat all day, you're never going to get the stores of creatine that supplementing would give you. And so I would say it's healthy to supplement creatine, and everyone should do it anyway. And that if you do supplement creatine, you're going to reach the same saturation as a meat eater who also supplements creatine, because you can only get saturated to a certain amount.
There's a certain amount that can be saturated in your muscles.
And creatine monohydrate, which is the most popular form of and cheapest form of creatine, is vegan. So
it's vegan? How's it vegan? I thought it
creatine
comes-
monohydrate is. Yeah.
How's that
Other
vegan?
forms of creatine are from pig bones, but creatine monohydrate is actually from plant matter.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I thought creatine, what was it? Not exclusively came from red meat.
Yeah,
as
so
well. I know that's where it was first
Yeah.
extracted.
and so an easy thing to actually think about to realize that animals actually contain almost all nutrients is that you have to get these nutrients from somewhere. I mean that plants contain almost all nutrients.
Yeah, I know
is
what you're
that
talking about.
animals have to get these nutrients from somewhere. And so the reason that pigs have such high creatine stores is because they've eaten these plants,
It's kind of
and
like-
that we store them. Yeah.
This is like me delving back into like my middle school biology days, but I remember something where it was the transfer of energy from one consume to another. I see where you're getting at is because a pig or other mammals consume plants, they get all their nutrients from plants, and we're getting a deficiency of that energy, I guess.
Yeah. And so there are weird ones too, like for example, vitamin A in humans. You don't actually have to consume vitamin A. You can eat what's called a precranoid, something like that. Yeah. But it's found in things like carrots, and all orange and red things have it. And
I ate
it's-
so many carrots when I was a baby. My mom told me I turned orange. Like literally, and apparently that's a thing. I could be wrong.
Yeah. And so there are things like that where, you know, your body transforms it into vitamin A, and humans do that. And like, for example, cows create B12 after eating cobalt, but you can get B12 from like duckweed or something, you know, so you don't have to get it from them. So there are things like that, but
Duckweed's disgusting.
yeah, but we don't have any. We haven't found anything that we can't get from plants or can't create in our body that is only obtainable in animals. So there's like heme iron, we don't need that. It's actually unhealthy for you, most studies show. A vitamin A, as I said, there's precannabinoids, and those transfer into vitamin A fine. Omega-3s, our body, and this is what indicates too that we're not obligate carnivores and that we don't have to eat meat, is that we have all these mechanisms biologically. And so like, for example, omega-3s, if you eat flaxseed, which only contains ALA omega-3s, our body actually transforms it into every other type of omega-3.
I know omega-3s are found heavily in fish oils.
Yeah.
And I know those are good. I'm not entirely sure. From my rough knowledge of nutrition, those are good for like eyesight and.
So omega-3s are good. Fish oils have actually, like the pills have shown to cause liver damage, liver toxicity.
those pills suck swallow, by the way.
Yeah.
Fuck those things.
Yeah. But if you just eat 2 tablespoons of flaxseed a day, which you can buy ground flaxseed in the baking section of Kroger, it's super cheap. The pack will last you forever. Put 2 tablespoons in your smoothie or whatever. That's enough omega-3s for you daily. And most people don't consume fish regularly. They don't consume fish oil regularly. So if you do that, you'll actually be a lot more beneficial.
Okay.
Likely.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. And like I said, this just comes down to the situation of I've never actually had this conversation
Yeah.
with vegans about what it's like to be vegan. And obviously, it's hard for you to give me anecdotal evidence because your previous anecdotal evidence of actually eating meat was either malnutrition or getting some $5 Chinese, which anyone can agree is bad for you. And I didn't get your name. What was your name, boss?
Steven.
Steven, I'm
All right.
Jacob.
So, Jacob.
So what was your story?
Yeah, so I was homeless basically, and broke and sick and tired all the time. So, and hungry all the time. So I was buying the dollar pizzas and just wasn't living very healthily. And someone said vegan, and I was desperate to figure something out because my life was a wreck. And it just made sense to me. It kind of clicked that like, I'm causing all this trouble. My life's trouble. Maybe that's when I get rid. If I can get rid of that trouble, then my
Like
life
a
will
karma
be.
situation.
So that's how I saw it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all know anyone that lived a actual sustainable, healthy lifestyle pre-vegan. I would love to speak to them.
I don't know anyone personally, but I can actually, I follow a lot of vegan YouTubers, and I know one in particular, Lifting Vegan Logic. He's super buff, dude. He worked out and was super buff before he was vegan, and he got even more buff on a vegan diet and has continued to like make gains.
And I would love to see that because I have heard of vegan
And
bodylift.
I always do
bodybuilders,
this after
bodylifters.
conversations with people. You saw this at the end with that dude in his car. I like to get your phone number, your contact information.
Yeah, I
I
can
already
give
have
you-
your Snapchat.
Yeah, so you
and
send
I'll
me
just
that.
send you resources. I'll send you a link to our Facebook group, some YouTubers I like to watch, and I'll just send you some common ingredients and tips to live on a vegan diet.
And I would very much enjoy that. I'll definitely look into it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see those YouTubers because we've mostly discussed empirical evidence and objective things. But now I would also like to hear subjective. Because I would like to hear it. And unfortunately, as y'all both stated, before you went vegan, you were eating dollar pizzas, which is the most processed shit ever. And there's really no good way to compare on your end. But yeah, I mean, I think we've hit a lot of points at this point.
It
It's
was
just
a good
looking
conversation for
yeah.
Well, Game Changers is a good one because of what's his name. He was
Yeah,
he
James
was in the,
was,
he was in the military. He was a top
He was
dog
also
there,
an MMA
trainer.
fighter.
So super healthy, conscious, and yeah, he ended up getting injured, and he was trying to figure out a way to quicken his injury recovery, and did all this research and found out people are getting healthier by just getting rid of animal products.
And also in that documentary, they point out a really interesting thing that only about 8% of the American population is vegan. Yet these vegan people there's in almost every section of athletics, there's a vegan person in the top 10 of that section. And so for only 8% of the population to be that, and we have people in powerlifting, we have people in track, we have people in MMA, like everywhere, that's pretty significant. That indicates that it's definitely doable for an athletic.
And I would like to
individual.
see that because ultimately, that is the deciding factor of all this, is the health aspect. Because at the end of the day, we can argue morals all day, every day about this. But at the end of the day, what matters is health. If you are sustaining a better life through eating plants and it's healthier for you, then obviously that would be the best route. And that's the issue we're kind of running into. And I'll look into it because I'm very interested.
Yeah, I'll send you all the resources. I hope you do. Watch them.
Because I am interested, because I've never heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me. But like I said, I do. When I say that, I mean top 10% of all athletic fields. That would be interesting to see, because at the end of the day, there's really no argue of, if someone came to you, and I mean, you agreed with this earlier, if someone came to you and said, hey, the consumption of meat for me personally has been better than being all vegan, would you have an issue with that?
So
if someone tried both, for example.
So subjective experience is different from empirical evidence. So if they simply said that they felt better, I would have issue with it. But if they had concrete evidence, if they had blood work, hormone tests, stuff like that, that they could show that they were empirically a healthier individual, then I couldn't really argue with it. I would just, argue like what type of vegan diet were you eating? Because if you weren't eating a healthy vegan diet, if you're raw vegan, for example, I've seen a lot of people who go raw vegan, and then they you can eat nothing cooked. You can only eat like raw fruits and vegetables. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah,
so you're
so
just
dumb.
trying to starve yourself, basically. I've seen a lot of them go to like carnivore diet afterwards. So the exact opposite extreme.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I tried that carnivore diet. That shit blew. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Shit. That shit sucked. Going to ketosis was the worst thing in my life.
Yeah.
It's like so bad.
Yeah.
But after I got into ketosis, I felt great. I felt fine. But the actual aspect of going into ketosis blew dick.
Yeah. And so I would say, like, if they weren't eating an adequate diet, then still that doesn't give them a moral reason to eat omnivore. They were just eating a shit diet as a vegan.
Like
You
not
can eat a
cooking
shit-
rice. Like
Yeah, they literally only eat raw fruits and vegetables. So I'm talking the majority of your diet is like watermelon, banana, like raw broccoli. But like they don't eat any cooked beans. They don't eat any cooked rice, cooked oats, and cooked like nothing.
It's
You just don't want
it's
worm?
doable, but you have to be in a special place to do it.
You have to be a dedicated ass.
yeah,
like,
You have to have
But-
like resources.
But then that's just weird in general. You're you just don't want to have warm food. Like you just want to eat stuff.
But
raw.
like on the opposite end, if you went vegan and all you ate was vegan cheese pizzas and vegan ice cream all day, and then you came to me and you're like, oh, I was healthier as an omnivore, now I'm unhealthy as a vegan, so I can go back to the omnivore diet, I would be like, well, no, because you ate a less healthy diet in general, So what I would say is like vegan cheese pizza versus regular cheese pizza, the vegan cheese pizza is healthier. And so I would say like the adequate thing in each category, the vegan one's healthier. So like steak versus seitan, for example. The seitan's gonna be healthier.
I don't know what seitan is.
It's what I was telling you about, that bag you get at Kroger, $8, called Vital Wheat Gluten, and it has 400 grams of protein in it for $8. Cheapest source of protein you can get.
Okay. I
I've
know
ever found.
beans are really good for protein. After we had that conversation, I did look it up. They have a
You
lot
should
of
look up
protein.
Vital Wheat
Lentils.
Gluten. It actually, it comes in powder form, and you add a little water to it, and it becomes a very meat-like substance. Like I'm talking like super meat-like substance. And it's actually a really old thing too. They used to do it in ancient China. Seitan stands for tendon of flour, and so they called it that because they basically were able to take grain and turn it into something that was pretty much meat. Yeah, and it's pure protein. It has no fat. It has like 6 grams of carbs, and it has like 23 grams of protein per serving. So
So here's one question I do have about the nutrition of it. Obviously, you do need fiber, and inherently plants have a lot of fiber. They're just like basically 100% fiber. fats are also needed.
Yeah.
How much fats are found in plants, for example?
Yeah, so you can get plenty of fats, and I would argue. So as I said, the risk factors for heart disease: saturated fat, cholesterol, and lack of fiber, right? And so you can eat things like oils and get saturated fat, right? But it's not necessary for you. The thing that I primarily get my fats from is things like nuts and seeds. As I said earlier, flaxseed has omega-3s. Omega-3 is a form of fat, right? So as long as you hit that adequate number of fat, which I think is like 10% of your calories should be fat from fat to maintain hormones, then you're fine. And if you eat, even like a handful of almonds has so much fat in it. Yeah, you would be surprised if you, or like coconut oil filled with fat. All oils filled with fat, stuff like that. And if you get vegan, like meats or something, like if you go to the store and get yourself like a Beyond Burger or something, it's gonna be loaded with a good amount of fat too because it's processed food. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. What was I gonna say? Oh, just completely off topic because I find this hilarious because I make fun of my friend for it all the time. My friend is really against seed oils, and I think it's something super specific to be against, and I make fun of him for it.
Yeah, so that's a weird one I've heard before.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
They've actually done studies on what the healthiest oils are, and the healthiest oil, period, every single time comes out as canola oil, which is like a seed oil, obviously. Yeah, and then it's normally like avocado oil and like olive oil and other things that are
I
up
know
there.
avocados are really heavy in fat.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's another great source of fat. Yeah. If you can get your fat from whole foods instead of oil or from meat, like you're going to be so, like from whole plant foods like avocado, cashews, seeds, that's going to like literally basically stop your risk factor for heart disease. I can tell you, I personally got a blood test done. My LDL came back as 35. That's no risk factor. The doctor was like, if you had a heart attack, it would be a literal anomaly. Like it would be like impossible.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll definitely look into it, and I am open to the option of at least trying it.
Yeah.
I've already tried the carnivore diet, and I feel like it would be incorrect of me to not try the opposite side of the spectrum. But I feel like, and I want to kind of leave off with this, and I'll have to look at the empirical evidence, like I said, but I feel like picking an extreme on either example is a bad idea. Overconsumption of meat, I feel like, is bad, and I could be wrong. You're arguing otherwise, that the overconsumption of plants could be unhealthy or a bad thing.
Yeah. I would say, you said picking an extreme. I would just like to say that, like, in my opinion, deciding to kill an animal is the extreme in general, right? And so by choosing to not go out of your way to kill an animal, you're actually picking the non-extreme option.
Okay.
Right?
Fair point.
Yeah, because if you're saying that, just to be moderately more healthy or whatever, to go out of your way to kill that animal, that seems like the extreme option to me. Yeah.
That's a fair point. That's also going, because obviously, like I said with this conversation, there's two main aspects: the overall morality of killing an animal, and the overall morality, or not even morality, the health factor of not killing animals.
Yeah.
And that's where we continue to butt heads on that situation, is because I don't know the empirical evidence of the nutrition factor, and the main roadblock is that the morality as well. I would say, because going back, and we keep looping, so we should probably end this conversation because there's nowhere we're going with this. But my final statement on that is, since they would do it to us, it's not moral. But, and I also understand your point, where it's like we live in a society where we can consume plants, and then we again go back. So it's kind of like we're in a loop. That's the issue.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was a great
I'm glad to hear that you're gonna do your research and look into not consuming as many animal products. And I hope you end up going vegan. That's my ultimate goal. But at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is try and curb people's consumption in the animal agriculture industry. So I know that you admitted that that's immoral. So I do feel you feel the moral obligation to curb that consumption.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm definitely going to look at it, and if I see that there is no real negative side effect from going vegan, I am more than welcome to trying it. Just because, like I said earlier, I've already done the other extreme.
And even if you're not going to try veganism, do you think you're going to generally curb your consumption of animal products?
Yes. It really depends. Like,
like to see legislation where they do
Yeah.
something. For example, they actually free range these chickens instead of claiming.
I would agree. It obviously doesn't feel good to know you've been lied to since birth, basically, about like what you're actually eating and paying for. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up that they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that they're lying, and there's no real legislation. Anytime you allow an industry, I'm very pro-capitalist, and that's another conversation we can have. But anytime you allow an industry too much reign, like I said earlier, profits follow the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And that's the situation you're dealing with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, people like to say socialism is evil or whatever, but at the end of the day, some policies inside of capitalism are socialistic policies.
Minimum wage is socialism.
Yeah. Like child labor laws, socialism, like stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's pretty ludicrous when people are like against regulation overall. Like, it's a very necessary thing.
No, I agree. That's what I go back to earlier. I feel like picking extremes on both sides are dumb.
Yeah.
Someone who's capitalist all the way is, I think, incorrect.
Yeah.
You saw that with monopolies and
Yeah.
child labor,
Yeah.
shit like that.
Yeah.
And then someone who's completely socialist or completely communist, I think they're also incorrect.
Yeah.
And that's why we exist in kind of a mixed economy.
Yeah.
But we're completely off track of
Yeah.
veganism now, but I do believe that if leaning more towards capitalism is a better solution than leaning more towards socialism.
Yeah. I would just say, in our current society and what's going on right now, yeah, it's definitely a moral obligation to try and reduce your animal consumption.
Exactly. I concur, and definitely seeing a change in legislation would be the best option.
And if you want to, I'm going to send you a lot of resources if you want to look at, because I know we didn't really look at this much, if you want to watch this specific
Yeah, it's hard to
video,
look at
I
that
could
when I'm
send
trying to
it
talk to you.
too.
Yeah, sure, go ahead with that.
Yeah.
I do
It's
remember.
just going to be a lot of gore and stuff, though.
That's
You're
fine.
basically just going to be watching animals get killed for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
You completely off topic, and we can end this now. Have you seen that that thing? What is that called?